Hi everyone, this is Rob Watson and this is the overview summary video for the 21st lecture for TECH3022 Social Media Practice. And what I want to cover in this lecture is the idea of open learning. And hopefully this is something that can inform our social media practice in terms of thinking of engagement and encouragement to learn in a collaborative, open, transparent, non-hierarchical, non-institutionalized kind of way. So it's the idea of taking the affordances of social media and using them in a situation whereby people can engage in a continuous sense of learning for social personal development, which goes beyond, if you like, the kind of qualifications and the skills development kind of approach, but as a broader sense of drawing on the kind of knowledge and awareness and issues that people are naturally have and that they're interested in, rather than, if you like, being imposed as a kind of academic, purely academic. There's nothing wrong with being academic, but you don't want to impose that in all circumstances, in all situations. And I suppose the aim is to use the tools, the learning tools that we have, to encourage a greater sense of ongoing empowerment through learning. So we'll look at this in terms of, start off by just reminding ourselves of what Howard Rheingold identified in terms of what his net smarts are. And we covered this in year one in the social media module. And it's kind of the idea of kind of, what are the things that we need to learn to use the internet successfully? It's attention management. It's level, it's types of participation, a kind of a participation that is engaged, constructive, collaborative, those kind of forms of participation. And indeed, collaboration is one of Rheingold's net smarts literacies for successful engagement. So it's something that you, as a skill, will be able to take into the workplace to encourage people to collaborate more effectively. But he also has the kind of element of what he calls crap detection, the kind of critical thinking of not taking things at face value, which is massively important, I suppose, at the moment in terms of the fake news agenda. But then he also talks about what he calls network smarts. I suppose it's relationship management and how we identify who and what we are associated with and how we engage with people in a way which is about a sustainable way to manage a sense of community, or a sense of a community based around our interests or based around our identity. So Rheingold kind of puts these into a context which leads into the Jenkins, Ford and Green argument, the Henry Jenkins argument about spreadability and the fact that the media approach model has changed, and that rather than looking for, if you like, sticky media, I think we've covered this topic previously, rather than looking for eyeballs in front of screens, then what we need to think about is the way that our media is shareable, and that meanings travel and change as it shares around our cultures, and that those meanings are generated in response to and as part of and through the kind of language and the kind of routines of exchange and sharing and negotiation that we have. So we think back to the kind of model of symbolic interactionism that we've started from, and the role that netnography and digital ethnography plays in trying to understand what's going on, what are the processes that are happening there. Because the kind of network cultures that are emerging through mobile communications and network-based communications have kind of require a different way of thinking about the kind of literacies and skills that we have. So is it something that should just, if you like, finish at, when you graduate, when you finish school? Do we carry on learning? I always ask this interesting question, and it's kind of a very simple question, and as with all simple questions, there's probably a very complex answer to it. But how do we learn to use social media? How do we learn to take selfies, for example? Nobody passes an exam. Nobody has a certificate or a qualification or a badge that says, hey, I'm a grade A selfie taker. We kind of do it. We kind of use our skills to be able to learn from each other. And so there's an awful lot of learning, that kind of tacit learning, which takes place in our networks that we're kind of seeing each other, doing things with each other, watching each other, interacting with each other, that gives us that opportunity to move forward and achieve something, or to hold back and not achieve something, because we're scanning each other, and we're learning from each other. So one of the things that emerges from this is a focus on DIY communities and communities of practice. So it's kind of, it's this, the focus turns to the grassroots. It turns to what it is that is at the, the great spread of people, rather than just those, if you like, investors and those celebrities that are at the top of the tree. It's actually more about those people who are kind of on the ground and are able to, the kind of great mass of people, to kind of share and network and to think about the kind of tools that they need to manage their online and social collaboration in the future. Now, this isn't a one-way process. There's a famous Michel Foucault, who's a post-structuralist thinker, critical thinker, uses the phrase, where there is power, there is resistance. And that kind of always reminds me of, if you like, of an electrical engineering joke. But it's kind of, this isn't a two-way process. There is dissent, but there is also... there's repression as well. So how do we negotiate and manage these processes, which are kind of, maybe they're accelerated, maybe we can read about them more quickly, but they're spread around the world. This knowledge base is kind of expanding continually. And there's I suppose what the optimist in me would argue for is that this is part of a de-hierarchicalization, is that we're no longer living in a kind of top-down society that seeks great leaders, that seeks autocratic, technocratic leaders, but actually what it puts in place is a form of deliberative democracy. But to have a well-informed and practicing and working and sustainable deliberative democracy, you need people to be learning on a continuous basis in a reflexive way, so that they're not just stuck with the concerns of the past. Simon Lindgren, in the book Digital Media Society, talks about this in terms of things that we need to look for, in terms of kind of the flows of people, the ethnoscapes, the flows of media, the mediascapes, the flows of technology, the technoscapes, the flows of capital and finance, the financescapes, and the flows of ideas, so the ideascapes. And so it's quite interesting to think about, where will we situate our learning in the future? Where will we place? Is it going to be through things like Mozilla Open Badges, which is I'd love to be able to get the time and the opportunity to develop some learning badges. But where will we be in terms of learning from each other and collaborating, and how do we need to prepare people for a world of continuous learning and continuous engagement, and using the tools of social media technology to do that. Right, the notes for this session are up on the DMU Commons wiki. Just go to wiki.our.dmu.ac.uk, and if you wish to participate, continue the discussion that we've had or will be having, go over to talk.our.dmu.ac.uk and choose a topic or start a new topic. But I'll see you at the lecture.